Robert, Outreach and Stewardship Technician at Quinte Conservation. Today we're going to learn about a very special ecosystem that's found in part of our watershed. And that ecosystem is tall grass prairie. So I'm here at Sidney Conservation Area where we're going to look and learn a bit about tall grass prairies. So come along. Think of a prairie, and what images come to mind when you hear that word? Some might think of the western provinces of Canada, maybe of wide open grasslands, prairie dogs and bison. And those are all things we've come to associate with the word prairie and what it means. But did you know that Ontario also has its own prairie ecosystems? They're a little bit different than those out west, and they came as far east as the Quinte Conservation watershed. Here at Sidney Conservation Area, there's a very small remnant of prairie left, and we're doing some work to enhance it so that visitors can see many of the species that would have been historically on the landscape. Ontario prairies typically occur on dry, sandy, well-drained soils. The vegetation communities that live there, so the prairie grasses and flowers and plants, prefer those conditions. They prefer drier conditions with lots of sand. Here in the Oak Hills, there are some very good conditions for these plant communities to grow. We have very dry and sandy soils. You can see how loose they are. And so these plants would do well on the slopes and hilltops of the Oak Hills, where these dry, sandy patches occur, also called sand plains. This would also make these areas prone to drought and fire. So many of these plants use fire as a way to reproduce. And some of them actually require fire for their seeds to germinate and to keep competing species out of the prairie ecosystem. So why did we choose this site to do some prairie restoration? It is a very small site, but there are already some species here that show us that there are good conditions for prairie plants and that are associated with prairie ecosystems. Our first species that you might get to see, if you're lucky enough, is our frostweed, and this one is blooming. So frostweed is a plant that grows in some Ontario prairies, and it's not very common, so it's very special that we found it here at Sidney Conservation Area. Another plant that is a little more common at this spot, and you'll see all over the place in our prairie restoration site, is called pinweed. So the pinweed doesn't look like much right now, but it's got these thin, narrow leaves and a long green stalk. And in the fall and winter, the pinweed will grow these seeds that look like little pinheads, which is where it gets its name from. This one is also typically associated with prairies in Ontario, but will also grow in some other dry ecosystems, like on the Canadian Shield. So our pinweed and our frostweed that we found on the site, we've made sure to leave alone so they can continue to exist here and contribute to our plant community. But we've also added some other prairie species that will contribute to the biodiversity of this site. For example, down here, we're adding some grasses. So a typical prairie grass that's common on many prairies in Ontario is called big bluestem. It doesn't look like much right now, but by the end of the summer, it will have a very tall stalk and a seed head that looks a bit like a bird's foot. And now this grass is also called turkey foot because of the name. We're also planting a grass over here that also doesn't look like much right now, but this is Canada Wild Rye. So Canada Wild Rye looks very similar to domestic cultivated rye, which is where it gets its name from. We're also adding some wildflowers to our mix. So the wildflower in front of you is called showy tick trefoil. Now the showy tick trefoil is a type of legume, so it's related to peas and beans and other pulses. In the summer, it will bloom these pink, flowers that look a bit like pea plant flowers, and develops these seeds in the fall that are very, very sticky. So if you pick them up with your fingers or get stuck on your clothes, you'll find they're very sticky and hard to get off, but it's a very important plant in this ecosystem. We're also planting another flowering plant that is a bit more like a shrub called New Jersey tea. So New Jersey tea has brilliant white flowers that come out in the summertime and attracts lots of bees and butterflies. It's also an important plant for an endangered butterfly called a mottled dusky wing, which eats the leaves of this plant as a caterpillar. Unfortunately, we don't have any in this area. They've disappeared from the Oak Hills, but that butterfly was here historically. So if they are reintroduced one day and come back, hopefully they'll find some New Jersey tea to lay their eggs on. Historically, prairies were much more extensive in southern Ontario than they are today. But due to a number of changes on the landscape, they have become far less extensive and only occur in small patches for the most part. In the Oak Hills, prairies are typically found in small pockets on sandy plains and eroding sandy slopes of hillsides. As a result, restoration efforts are very important to maintain the biodiversity of these areas and give visitors to the Oak Hills and to our conservation areas a chance to see some of these ecosystems, even if they're only in small patches.